Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. As you can probably tell, I don't have any makeup on, and that is because we are going to be doing a foundation review, and it is on the new BeautyBlender Foundation. This is kind of a review, kind of a first impression, because I wanted to do a first impression, but I got this in the mail Thursday evening, and I ended up wearing it to rehearsal on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then today's Sunday, so it's kind of more of a review, not really much of a first impression, but I just wanted to try it out with you guys and share with my thoughts with you. I do have a full page of notes right here where I've been taking notes the last few days. So yeah, I am going to get started. I do have the Beauty Blender, but I prefer the Eco Tool sponge because to me, I find that it's not as soft, but I find that I like the coverage a little bit better. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and, like I said, get started. I am gonna demo this for you guys first, and then, like I said, we'll go on and I'll start talking about the reviews and stuff. But this is the packaging. It's actually really nice. I thought this was glass, but I actually think this might be just really thick plastic. So I'm not 100% sure, but the idea of this is you're kind of supposed to be able to press your Beauty Blender or sponge underneath here, kind of squirt it on there. I actually use this side of my Beauty Blender, and I've just been pumping it out onto the back of my hand, just making sure that my hands are washed, but again, that's kind of personal preference. I am actually going to try it with a brush today, one side with a brush. I'm just going to use my IT Cosmetics, I don't know what this is, Airbrush Complexion Perfection and number 115 brush, and I am also going to be trying it out with a different primer. The primer I have been using it with is the Origins Original Skin Pore Perfecting Primer. I want to try it with one that's not really meant so much for pores to see how it sets and settles in around this area. That primer right there, I also feel like with this foundation, it doesn't really make it last any longer. This Smashbox Photo Finish Primer in Light is one of my favorites when I need something to last a really long time. So I'm just going to apply this just all over my face. Alright, so I just pulled my hair out of my face and now my skin is primed. I am in the shade 1.40. I was a little bit confused because there was a shade that said light with neutral undertones, and then there was another one which I think was like 1.6 or something, which also said light with neutral undertones. I wasn't 100% sure, so I just went with the first one. You do have a little lock right here which locks it, which I think is really nice. I can't remember if I've locked it or unlocked it. Okay, I left it unlocked. But I'm just going to put a little bit on the back of my hand, and that's 2 pumps starting out. So I definitely feel like it pumps out a little bit less than what most foundations do, but I just like to start out with just a little bit. I am going to use a sponge on this side, and then I'll use a brush on the other side. And I'm just, again, going to be using my Eco Tools sponge. But I also do like to work in sections with this because I feel like it just works a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to blend if I work in sections, but I think that it does blend fine because I put it all over my face yesterday. But I am someone who does like to work in sections better. And I also think that this does work better if you kind of do more like pouncing motions instead of dragging. I feel like, of course, you get better coverage that way. Just gonna bring a little bit down my neck. And this color actually matches me really well right now. Like, I was really happy with the color. I was really happy with the undertone because I feel like a lot of foundations that say they have a neutral undertone, sometimes they'll still either lean a little bit more on the cool side or a little bit more on the warm side. And this one I feel like is absolutely perfect. Alright, so that is one layer that's on right now. Like I said, I don't feel like the coverage is as good with the brush, believe it or not, which usually it's vice versa. Usually you do get better coverage with a brush. And I do honestly like the the sponge side better as well. But kind of going over it helped a little bit. But yeah, that is just one layer. I am going to go ahead and build this up just in the areas that I need it to be built up. But if this is enough coverage for you, that's fine. But I do, like I said, feel like I need just a little bit coverage here on the bottom part of my cheeks, just to kind of cover like acne scarring and stuff. Alright guys, so I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Starting out right here, this is the BeautyBlender Foundation in the shade 1.40. This is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro in the shade Cashmere 06. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear in 1 and 2 Ecru. This is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Foundation in the shade 150. And this is the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion in the shade 2 in 1 Cashew. Alright guys, so now we move on to the review, but before we do, what's on my face is the Lorac Pro 4 palettes on my eyes. I thought I actually filmed this demo, but I wasn't filming. And then for my lips is the Too Faced Melted Matte in the shade Suck It, Huge Extreme Lash Mascara by Stila, and the little Clinique Bottom Lash Mascara on my mascara. For highlighter, the Physicians Formula highlighter, which is really pretty. Their blush in Plum Rose, and then my NARS bronzer, and that's all that's on my face. Oh, and my Viseart powder. I set my under eye and my entire face with this, and then for concealer I use my Catrice concealer right here, which I love. So anyways, if you're new to my channel, a little bit about my skin. I do have extremely oily skin, and I do usually suffer from breakouts. My skin right now is relatively clear except for the breakout that you guys seen right here. And that time of the month I always get breakouts right around here, and I am supposed to be starting in the next few days, so I believe that's what these breakouts are. At least I hope that's what they are. I hope it's not the foundation. But I am going to read the claims on Sephora. It does look like right now most shades are still in stock. There is a few that's sold out. But yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. It says that this is supposed to be full coverage. It's supposed to work for sensitive, normal, combination, oily skin. It's supposed to have a matte finish. It's a weightless liquid whip foundation with a multi-dimensional velveteen matte finish that wears for up to 24 hours. It says that it's the one that you can't see at all. With a bare skin feel yet completely full coverage, this revolutionary weightless whipped liquid glides and bounces easy so that it never looks cakey or fake, no matter how little or how much you layer on. So it just goes on to talk about what it's developed with, but it's never supposed to feel chalky or lifeless. It's supposed to be naturally gorgeous, healthy looking skin. So it's formulated without paraben, sulfates, and that stuff. So you can read other stuff on here, and it also tells you what they would recommend, how to use it or whatever, and they recommend their beauty sponge. But I use it with the Real Techniques sponge you guys seen, and with that It Cosmetics brush, and I think that it worked fine, but I do definitely think that this foundation works better with the sponge. So going and starting off about the packaging that I already mentioned, I actually like the packaging. I actually didn't see this earlier, but this come in the box, and it actually tells you what you're supposed to do is actually pump it out and dip your sponge in it this way, whereas I thought you were supposed to do it like this. Sorry, you dip it like this. But in all honesty, I couldn't imagine having to clean this every single day so it didn't look gross. So I just like to still pump it out on my hand. I think the pump works fine and all that. So on to my notes. So this does come in 32 shades. Again, I know that that's not a huge range of shades. It is $40, and you do get one standard fluid ounce of product, which is really nice. I do have the shade 1.4, and honestly this is one of my closest ever shade matches when it comes to foundation. I think it, like I said, it just matches my neck perfectly. I love the shade. It is kind of confusing, but I definitely feel like if you are looking for your shade, look at the swatches on Trend Mood's page, because she has every single swatches on there, so you can kind of get a better representation of the color. Because when I got 1.4 online on Sephora, it looked very, very pink in my opinion, but this is like a really nice neutral undertone in the shade 1.4, so 1.40. Now moving on, I am going to talk about a little bit like the color going on. I think that this blends out lighter than it looks when you first pump it out on your hand. Like when I first pumped it out on my hand, like I said, I felt like it looked a lot darker, but then when I blended it out, it did blend out a little bit lighter. So that's something to like just take into consideration when you are looking at the shades. As far as coverage, it says full, but I think, in my opinion, this is more medium coverage. I think that, like I said, if you don't have a lot to cover up, this is another foundation that will be full coverage for you. But like I said, I can still see my bump coming through right here, and it's not it's not as full coverage as some other foundations. Like I don't think it's as full coverage as my Bare Minerals foundation. It's not as full coverage as my Estee Lauder foundation. So in my opinion, I think it is medium coverage. You guys did see I built it up in some of the areas, and I do feel like you could build it to full, but I do, like I said, more like to do one layer and build up in the areas just where I need it, because sometimes I feel like 2 layers can feel heavy with most foundations. As far as it working for oily skin, I definitely feel like the finish is very matte. So I do like that, considering that I do have oily skin, but I don't feel like it's such like extremely flat matte. Now, something that I have noticed though every time that I've applied this is it does feel like tacky. So I find that I like to go in and set this with the powder before I go in with other products. I love my Viseart powder. If you guys can see, I'm almost completely out of this stuff. I use this to set underneath my eyes, and I use this to set my entire face when I really, really want a foundation to, like, all the shine to be gone. If I don't want all the shine to be gone, I want a little more coverage, I like my Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten. As you guys can see, I've put a serious dent in this. I love this. So that's kind of personal preference, but I definitely feel, in my opinion, I like to set it because I don't like that tackiness. Especially for some reason, I feel like it's a little bit tackier on my forehead than it is on the rest of my face, but I do feel like you do definitely need to set it. So, and like I said though, it's more of like a demi matte as long as you don't set it, but then I do feel like it looks really matte right now. This is my highlighter though, so that's why it does kind of look shiny there. When it says that it's weightless, I don't feel like it's the most lightweight foundation I've ever worn. Like I can still feel it on my skin, but it's also not as heavy as like the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation by any means. And I also don't feel like it's as heavy as the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. But I have used a lot of other more lightweight foundations, so I don't completely agree with it being like weightless. Because like I said, I have used so many other foundations that I feel like are a lot more lightweight on the skin than this one. But again, you know, you might consider this lightweight. That's I feel like kind of comes down to what you think personally, but I can feel it on my skin. I definitely feel like this one needs a primer. Like I said, this is my 4th day wearing it, and I did use my Smashbox primer. I did think that it glided over top of this and looks really nice. I also feel like this isn't a pore filling primer, and I feel like this doesn't sink into my pores at all, which I think is really nice. I think it looks really nice and just smooth right over top of those. So again, if you're someone who maybe has larger pores, this might be a foundation for you. I love this Origins one, but this one is great for creating a gorgeous flawless base, just really smooth. Everything blends nicely over top of it, but this doesn't do the best for like controlling oil and helping with like the lasting power foundations. So that's why I really like the Smashbox one. I gotta be honest though, I don't feel like I used this the Stila one with it on Saturday, and I don't really like this combination of these two together. There's just something about it that I just felt like my skin looked a little bit more dull using this one, which is weird because usually when I use this primer, it gives a more light to my skin, like it looks a little bit more lively. But I definitely, like I said, feel like primer wise, you don't necessarily need a pore filling primer. But I feel like I definitely need a primer, because if I don't, I definitely feel like I get a lot more, or get a lot oilier quicker without a primer, which usually happens with most foundations. But so this one I definitely would go in, if you're someone who has oily skin, you might want to go in with one that helps control your oil a little bit more, like the Smashbox one. I actually want to try this with the Becca Ever Matte one. We're actually going blueberry picking tomorrow, so I'm actually going to try it with that Becca one to see if that keeps me matte for even longer. It doesn't, like I was saying, it doesn't sink into my pores, and it doesn't sink into my fine lines, which is a huge thing, because even my Bare Minerals foundation, which I love, can sink into these smile lines if I don't set that with a translucent powder. But I definitely, like I said, it also might be though because I've really changed up my skincare and I feel like my skin's more hydrated. But I do love this foundation, but that is one downfall, whereas I feel like I said with the Beauty Blender one, I don't have that issue. So if you're someone who maybe has issues with smile lines or any lines right here, up here on your forehead, these don't sink into it, which I do really like. Alright, now moving on to, it says that it doesn't cake. I don't think it looks cakey at first. Like at first, when I first put this on, within like the first 2 hours, I feel like it looks really smooth, really velvety. But throughout the night, I really feel like it kind of starts to look makeup-y. It's not bad at all. Like, it's something that I can deal with and it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't, like, it starts to break up on my chin's the biggest thing that bothers me. Like right here in this area, it just really starts to break up, which doesn't really necessarily happen with like my Estee Lauder one or my Bare Minerals one, but it does happen with a lot of other foundations. But it does start to break up right here. I don't really have any other issues, except I was wiping my nose the other day at rehearsal when I first wore this, like this a lot, and usually with my other foundations, like I said, it does wipe off a little bit, but I felt like this really wiped off my nose, and it does seem to transfer, especially on my nose. When I get oily and I took a blotting sheet, I didn't feel like I had an excessive amount of oil on my face, but I felt like quite a bit of the foundation come off, and it did take off a lot of coverage. So this is one that like it makes me nervous to blot with, since it does take the product off and the coverage away, whereas if I do use my Estee Lauder or my Bare Minerals, I feel like when I blot, mostly oil comes off. Some of the foundation does, but not a lot. So again, it's one that, like I said, I'm a little bit nervous about wearing if I know I'm going to need to wear it for an extended amount of time in the heat. But again, I'll definitely be putting that to the test tomorrow. And if it holds up tomorrow, I might even wear it to Warped Tour to see how well it works. It works at Warped Tour because it's so hot. As far as does it control my oils and how long it lasts. Around hour 5, I've noticed every single day. Again, I've been filming now. I put this on at about 3:15. It's just 4:33, so it's not, like I said, too long or anything like that, and I do still feel like it looks fine, but I always feel like it's around the 5-hour mark and 6-hour mark when it kind of, like I said, it does that oiliness starting to break up on my chin. I would really like to try mixing this foundation with the Urban Decay Velvetizer, because there are so many foundations that I like that just don't last that long on me, and I mix this in here, and I tell you, this is amazing. I might try these together tomorrow. If it works better, I might wear these two to Warped Tour. So we'll see. But like I said, I don't really know how well it works so much in the heat, because like I said, I wore this to rehearsal. I had it on for just about 6 hours. We were inside. We were under a ton of lights though, so it was getting kind of hot. And like I said, but I did notice that breaking up on my chin, which, like I said, I know might not be a deal breaker for some people, and you might not have that issue. Anyway, so when I wore this Friday, I still felt around hour 6 I started getting oily. I just went to work, so I didn't do like too much that day. I come home, I took my makeup off because I was going to work out. So I do still feel, like I said, it doesn't control my oils as well as I would want it to, but I definitely want to, like I said, try it. Today's the first day trying it with this primer. So I will definitely, like I said, let you guys know in the comments down below how this wears when we go blueberry picking. And stuff like that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if there's any other foundations you guys want me to try, just let me know. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.